Value investors historically over the past 10 years have vastly underperformed.
A lot of the value of that business actually is off the balance sheet in terms of that network that they create. And that's difficult, I think, for many value investors to appropriately value that piece of it, that ecosystem and that network effect.
Value investors have been hammered recently, where all the value investors, are trying to stay positive in this environment and say, well, our time will still come. And so if people don't know what value investing is basically when you invest in a company because you believe that there are undervalued assets, right? There's intrinsic value in a business that the market just isn't valuing properly. They're not recognizing that value appropriately. And you have a hypothesis on what that is. And you're now investing in that, usually over the mid to long term, until the market can appropriately price that value in. Value investors historically over the past 10 years have vastly underperformed against the other class of investors, which would be growth investors. Growth investors are typically the ones that are investing in companies, certainly tech companies, some platform companies, but it could also just be more traditional businesses that are reinvesting a lot of their earnings into growth. If you were to compare just broadly value to growth, growth investors have bested value investors by a wide margin over the past 10 years. Value investors have said, well, we don't think that these things are going to continue over the next 10 years, and the next 10 years will be our time to shine. Well, they've really been killed over the past few months. That the market in general has performed pretty well. So even though Platts up 7.5%, the rest of the market's also doing pretty decently as well.
Let's talk about value investing in platforms too. I think part of the challenge there that these are very different business models. They're asset light. A lot of the value of that business actually is off the balance sheet in terms of that network that they create. And that's difficult, I think, for many value investors to appropriately value that piece of it, that ecosystem and that network effect and that kind of traditional analysis. So I think that's also part of why a lot of these folks might not be invested in a lot of these platform companies.
Yeah, and we'll see how that starts to change with some of the stuff we're working on over the next few years.